You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show podcast, presented by Independent Roofing Systems. If you want it done right the first time, visit Independent Roofing Systems today.
Yes, Pickens Jackson.
Are you ready? Yes!
Now live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
You are listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
Oh, goodness. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in on a Football Friday. We'll sprinkle in a little SEC baseball for you. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for making us your sports and entertainment show of choice in the great state of Mississippi. This is 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS. The Out of Bounds Show. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Got Blake Mania with me on a Friday. And hope you're doing well. Weather looks great. Man, oh man, that's some y'all lifestyle weather, right? Get outside, enjoy yourself, have a big weekend on the water or somewhere fun. Heck yeah. Mother's Day weekend. Definitely want to celebrate your mom. Blake, do not drop the ball on that.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going today to be prepared.
All right. Yeah, the Out of Bounds Show brought to you by, let's go with the Ribeye at Kessler Prime. Or the Porterhouse.
I remember what that place looks like.
I haven't had a Porterhouse in a while. KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Great selection of Four Roses bourbon, single barrel, small batch, and the regular, which is my go-to. I did give a friend a bottle of the Four Roses bourbon single barrel private selection that Scott Kessler and Nathan McCarty and I picked out a couple of years ago. I guess now it's...
You got to be about out of this.
It's like 13... No, I've got another case back there.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's close to being out, though.
Okay.
It's time to get another one.
Well, yes, I am going to make a road trip to Louisville, Kentucky and do another barrel pick. But we did have a friend come through the studio yesterday, and we gave him a bottle. He had not come through since COVID. And so that was cool. It's like it's 13 years old, something like that. So it's a heck of a bottle of bourbon. But yeah, they've got a great selection of Four Roses. KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Welcome in. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-707-3750. Twitter handle at BoBounds, brought to you by the Spray and Bed Liners and Lift Kits at RPT and Rick's Pro Truck in Gluckstadt, Madison County. And your Mississippi Ag John Deere tractor text line is 601-885-3776. Jeff Duncan, Saints Insider, just wrote a book on Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Will join us at 8:30. Man, we are turning the page on the Drew Brees era at the Saints. That's it's wild, isn't it? Number 9 will never run out of the tunnel again in the Superdome. What a great player. Super dude, locker room guy, community guy for New Orleans. And, of course, Brees is going to have a great career off the field and with NBC Sports and so on. But next time you see him really, going, he'll be on, Sunday Night Football? And he'll be in studio right now. Now, there's all kinds of barking and talking about him taking Chris Collinsworth's place, but
that would be a mistake.
Brees is going to wear several different hats, right? Is he going to do Notre Dame football?
Is he really? I haven't heard that yet.
Did I read that, or am I getting that wrong with Mike Tirico as they kind of get warmed up to potentially take over? Al Michaels is now in his late... Now, getting Al to leave is going to be... I mean, Al does a great job, but however that's going to work is going to be interesting. I think Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth are fantastic. I'd heard that Tirico and Brees are they going to do Notre Dame games?
It is. All right, so let's see.
Okay, and then Brees will fly to New York to do Sunday Night Football. And I tell you who's so good is Rodney Harrison. He does a great... I mean, Dungy's not good on TV. But anyway, he's loved, and so they keep giving him gigs. Rodney Harrison's awesome. Now, I guess Harrison may have made so much money that he really doesn't want to travel stadium to stadium. But for our listeners, he played for the New England Patriots. He was part of Belichick's first run as a safety, but he's a big locker room guy, character guy, culture guy, just a alpha type dude. Now, I know he had a slight hiccup. Like, he got rung up for some kind of maybe steroid or something. But anyway, Rodney Harrison was awesome. And, of course, he started off on the Sunday Night Football with Dan Patrick, Tony Dungy, and Rodney Harrison. Patrick eventually, he had his health issue and so on. He stepped away. Tirico stepped in. And now Brees, I guess Dungy's out, Blake, and it'll be Tirico, Brees, and Rodney Harrison.
So he'll
do Notre Dame football on NBC.
Which is good because you want to start on a small stage.
Well, that's a pretty big stage, but you're
just taking shots at Notre Dame.
Well, I did look at Notre Dame's home schedule. It's awful. Notre Dame's home schedule this year is garbage. Again, they're not in a conference, and they piecemeal this schedule that has no rhyme or reason to it. And that's why they're it's very clunky where Notre Dame is and with what happens to college football. I don't think you can really sell your players on getting up week to week and rivalries and things like that, but whatever. So Drew Brees will be the color analyst for Notre Dame football, and then he will be in the studio for Sunday Night Football. And then I'm sure they'll have him do some other things because I think they're paying him $20 million a year. Or maybe it's not that much because Romo got $17 million. Did they really go $20 million with Brees right out of the gate? Or is it like half of that, $10 to $12 million? We'll have to look at that. Blake, can you Google that?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, why don't you use the Google over there instead of texting our listeners? And and let me know what's happening there as far as Brees' salary with NBC Sports. Surely they didn't give him $20 million right out of the chute. But I don't know. He is Drew Brees. Here's some other very, very important news. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone. Miller High Life. This is incredible. The champagne of beers. And there's nothing like a good Miller High Life every now and then. Miller High Life will pay someone $20,000 to become their new ambassador or brand ambassador, if you will. Now, how many of you either would love to do that or know a dude in your group? I have one in mind. His name is Jeff Norris. Jeff Norris would be awesome as the Miller High Life brand ambassador. Also, Jeff Norris was my first co-host on this show in 2003. That was a long time ago. I actually talked him in to joining me, and he did it for 6 months, did a good job. This is when we had no idea what we were doing. If I could have grabbed him like 7 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when we were actually up and 12 years ago, even when we were up and running and knew more what we were doing, who knows? But, and Jeff's got a little comedian in him, but Norris is a Miller Lite guy anyway, which is awesome. That's one of our beers on the show. But how about that, Blake? Miller High Life will pay someone $20,000 to become their new brand ambassador. And get this, you get a year of free Miller High Life. Is that awesome or what?
I've already sent my application in.
Let me add to it. They've also started a petition to ask the Milwaukee Common Council to establish an official Champagne of Beers region. That could actually get me to go to Milwaukee to take in a Brewers game, and so that I could say I've been to the official Champagne of Beers region. And doesn't that have
Sounds
a cool
like
ring to it?
It's a smart marketing plan.
And you could do like an awesome bar, and kind of tour, and maybe even do a couple of bars in this Champagne of Beers region for Miller High Life.
Absolutely, it'd be a whole museum.
Yeah,
I mean, you just got to go all out.
You're right. Yeah, between memorabilia and all kinds of cool stuff.
The reports on Drew Brees, they're supposed to replace Tirico, and Brees are supposed to replace Collinsworth after the 2022 Super Bowl.
That gives them one more Super Bowl. Al Michaels, one more Super Bowl. There you go.
As well as ESPN reportedly offered $6 million to Brees, and he wanted more. So NBC is
$10 million?
somewhere around, I think, $8-9 million is what NBC got him for.
All right. $8 or $9 million to call Notre Dame games and Sunday Night Football studio. Back in a second. You can order award-winning Jonesy Q rubs and sauces at jonesyq.com. Use promo code OOBSHOW if you order $20 or more and receive free shipping. That's jonesyq.com. Promo code OOBSHOW. Man, there's some crazy stuff going on with these mock drafts for next year. One, Matt Corral's not in them, which is incredible to me after the way he played in a all-SEC schedule. In a new offense. New offense, no spring. I mean, they had a summer, but it was weird, right, because of COVID. And right out of the gate, they play Florida, who was a really good team for the first 9 games of the year till everything, kind of fell apart around Mullen. And guys just decided, hey, I'm not going to play more ball. I want to go to the NFL, and I don't blame them. But when you take all that into account, he looked good against Florida and Bama and so on. And then all of a sudden, we're looking at another mock draft with Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. And he has Emory Jones, who's never started for a full season.
Yep, 95 dropbacks.
And Emory Jones, who is Dan Mullen's starter this year. Now, again, Dan Mullen took him from Ohio State in his first week as the Florida coach. And Emory's been able to, he's been at Florida for a lot. Did Dan just complete year 3?
Yes.
So Emory Jones will be he was a redshirt, then a redshirt freshman, then a redshirt sophomore. He'll be a redshirt junior?
Except you got the free year. So
but I'm just talking about technically in age. So they have Emory Jones going the 6th pick to the Philadelphia Eagles.
So here's the snippet that Mike Renner, who is very talented, had a really high draft projection grade. Like, they grade their mock drafts how accurate they are, and he was very accurate on this last year one. He says on Emory Jones going number 6 to the Eagles, this one's obviously a massive projection as he's only taken 95 dropbacks in college. Jones is one of the best dual threats in the country, though, and he earned an 86.1 rushing grade on 35 carries last season as a quarterback, which is extremely high. So essentially what all these drafts are telling you is if you can't move, you might as well change positions.
It's still unbelievable to me that Emory Jones is in one mock draft in the top 10, and Malik Willis out of Liberty is in another mock draft in the top 10, and Matt Corral is not.
He's got Malik Willis 11th in this mock.
People love
to the New York Giants. How about that?
Daniel Jones
would be, I guess,
get
replaced.
His name right?
Yes, you did, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. He says, this is incredible. Willis is the single most physically gifted quarterback in the country. Hose of an arm, moves like a running back at 6'1", 215. He's a little sloppy, but he needs refinement.
Okay.
This is like the Sarantola conversation. This is pure, look at this ball of clay, what can I turn it into?
That's going to change. All this is going to change.
I agree.
I mean, Rattler may be able to go start to finish at number 1, like a Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
But
you're not believing in Sam Howell, Mac Brown, and Phil Longo, are you?
No.
I think this is going to be one of those where teams just like what he looks like, and he's going to put up decent numbers at North Carolina, that he'll stay high, even though he may not deserve it.
I actually think that the Mitch Trubisky shadow could hurt him once we get through the season into December and January.
Fair enough. The only Ole Miss or Mississippi State player to make an appearance in this Mike Renner early mock draft, first round mock draft for 2022, cornerback Martin Emerson, number 18 to the New Orleans Saints.
Hey, Martin Emerson's a super talented player. I mean, he's played good football.
Long playmaker, 6'2", 195 pounds. Yeah. Only allowed 33 catches for 300 yards in his sophomore season. He broke up 12 of 59 targets.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a really, really, really good player.
Yep. So that's interesting right there. Renner's got a few. He's got Spencer Rattler 1, Sam Howell 2.
Did you go all the way through the first?
Yeah, in terms of people that we are connected to.
Okay.
There's no state or Ole Miss player other than Martin Emerson in the top 32.
Well, if I had to bet, a Hyundai right now, I'd bet that Matt Corral goes in the top 32 picks.
He has Spencer Rattler 1,
okay.
Sam Howell 2.
All right.
We're gonna
for our listeners, Spencer Rattler is the Oklahoma QB,
yep.
and Sam Howell's the North Carolina QB.
Both. Rattler's only started a year. I think
right.
Howell started a year, but he may have had starts before that.
Okay.
The next quarterback is Emory Jones, number 6, out of Florida.
Which I think Emory Jones could have a really, really big year.
Well, for him to go number 6, he'll have to have a big year. I mean, yeah.
Now, that goes against everything that you want because he'll be so far from 25 to 30 starts at the college football. Whereas Corral, if they'll go another 13. Ole Miss will go bowling. So they'll play 12 regular season, 13 with the bowl. And last year he played 10 and 11 with the bowl, and he had already started some
5 or 6
the year before. So that puts, Corral at 23, 24. Yeah, that puts him
He's
right
over
at 30.
25, yeah.
Okay.
So
Matt Corral over 3 years will be right at 30 games started, which is ideal. Look at Eli Manning. Eli and Dak were both they started over 30 games in college. Just remember that. Eli Manning started over 30. And Dak Prescott started over 30 games in college. That's, the numbers tell us that is a tremendous advantage.
Yeah.
Going from college. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but for whatever reason, we don't really hone in on that. And we just had the San Francisco 49ers, who are a smart organization, draft a young man who only has 17 starts under his belt with the 3rd pick in the draft. Trey Lance, a QB out of North Dakota State, and he's only played 1 game in 2 years. So Matt Corral will be north of 25 starts, actually 30. He'll be right at 30 starts when he wraps up his career at Ole Miss. That is what you want. He will have also elevated Ole Miss, which is what you want. And then when you look at the talent around him, compared to the talent that they play, that's also advantageous for Corral. So, that's. But he's not. He will be in the mock drafts eventually. Now it may take, 4, 5, 6 games into the season. You look at the first 3, and Louisville, Austin Peay, and Tulane. He'll have PlayStation-type numbers in those games. So he'll throw for north of 300 or 400 yards in those games. But right now they're telling you that, like Malik Willis from Liberty, Hugh Freeze's QB, that they're really falling in love with him, which was interesting compared to what Tom Luganville will say about, he likes him, he's a good player, but I don't think he's ready to put him in the top 10 of the NFL draft. That could be Hugh Freeze's first big time. No, it will be Freeze's first big time NFL draft QB because, Bo Wallace was just a good college football player, although he was a really good college football player. And Chad Kelly, it didn't line up as far as injuries off the field, just some things, and he wasn't drafted till like the 7th round. Was he the last pick in the draft?
Mr. Irrelevant.
I still can't believe he was Mr. Irrelevant after the 2015 season that he had and the start to the 2016 season against Florida State and Bama. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Show is brought to you by the new location for eye care professionals in Flowood. So they have their location, Lakeland Drive in Jackson, right down from Smith Wills and the Northeast Jackson baseball fields. They just opened up another new location in Flowood, Belmead. Dr. Kirk Jeffries, eye care professionals. They have a new location for you. Those of you in the Flowood, Hartfield, Northwest Rankin, Brandon Reservoir area. Eye Care, which, by the way, our streaming numbers over there, insane. New location, Dr. Kirk Jeffries, Eye Care Professionals, Flowwood, Belmead. Flowwood, Belmead, Eye Care Professionals, Dr. Kirk Jeffries. Routine eye exam, blade-free LASIK and cataract surgery. Dr. Kirk Jeffries and Eye Care Professionals. Jeff Duncan coming up next.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Kessler Prime. For the best steaks in Mississippi, visit Kessler Prime in the Renaissance.
Let's do it. This is the SEC Insider Hit. And it's presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue.
So one of the Pro Football Focus mock drafts for next year, they don't have Matt Corral in the top 32 picks, but they have Malik Willis out of Liberty, quarterback, and Emory Jones, who's never started on any kind of regular basis out of Florida, going in the first round. I mean, come on. I don't have to be an NFL draft insider, although I am on Twitter. But I don't have to be an NFL draft insider to know that, to question this. But not that those two guys are not really good players. I mean, Malik Willis played some good football for Hugh Freeze last year. But, and Emory Jones, showed some flashes that he could do some cool stuff. But man, oh man, what in the world is going on? Not having Matt Corral in the top. He will be there. It's just a matter of time. I just feel like those guys are missing, and I can't believe they're falling in love with two QBs like that. The Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Ace Bolt and Screw, powered by DeWalt Tools, 4 locations. Downtown Jackson, Gluckstadt, Madison County, Tupelo, and Atlanta. Ace Bolt and Screw, the number one fastener distributor in the Southeast. And then, of course, Ace Bolt and Screw is powered by DeWalt Tools. They have some great DeWalt promotions going on in the month of May. acebolt.net. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. And our guests join us on the Modelo guest line. We welcome in Jeff Duncan, theathletic.com, was with NOLA.com, Times-Picayune for years, Saints Insider, LSU, and so on. And Jeff just wrote a book that we're very excited about, Payton and Brees, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. And the forward is by Steve Gleason, which is pretty amazing, too. And Jeff's going to join us, Jeff Duncan, will join us in studio May 18th. That's going to be fun. And then we're going to have a lunch and invite 20 VIPs up here. And you can buy the book, and Jeff will sign it on Payton and Brees. So Jeff Duncan on the show. Jeff, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, Bo. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. We're excited that you're going to come join us in Jackson, Mississippi in a week and a half or so.
I can't wait. It's been a while since I've been to Jackson. Used to love coming there every year for training camp when the Saints trained there in town. And when I was working up in Monroe, Louisiana, kind of started my journalism career, we used to make trips over to Jackson all the time. I think is it Howlin' Mouths? Is that it?
Yes.
Just to go see shows there. So really looking forward to getting back and seeing the city and how it's developed.
Well, we're fired up that you're going to come up, and we'll have a great time. This is a big Saints town. And like you said, the Saints trained at Milsaps for several years. Well, that was right when Sean Payton and Drew Brees joined the Saints, Jeff, post Katrina.
Yeah, I can have very fond memories of those days. I remember it was kind of a little bit of a hill there where the football stadium was, down in a little bit of a crevice, and they had the practice field up above. We'd conduct the interviews in the end zone there under tents. It was the beginning of the greatest era in in New Orleans Saints history. And so that's where it all started, was there at Milsaps. No one knew in 2006 what was about to take place. Drew Brees was an unknown commodity. If you remember, Bo, Reggie Bush was the big name back then. I remember
That's right.
Going to the Jackson Airport when he came to camp and reported to camp a few days late, and it was a mob scene, and all the hopes and dreams of Saints fans were really hanging on Reggie Bush. I mean, he was the guy, people forget this, he was the guy that led the pregame chant during his rookie season, not Drew Brees. And eventually Drew Brees ceded that responsibility. It became his team, but in a subtle way, Reggie Bush was kind of the guy that first year.
That's a great point. It's hard for us to remember Brees when he wasn't a superstar, right? But you make a great point, and I just started doing this show then, and so I was out there too. This is before you and I got to know each other, but I can remember this, Jeff, just to give you an idea. One of our great partners on the show invited me out to like a VIP practice or whatever. Like y'all already had access, and I remember reluctantly saying yes, because I wasn't really that interested in the Saints, because they hadn't been, they weren't real interesting, right? And you make a great point. We had no idea what was about to happen, how they were going to become exciting, and this prolific offense, and so on. And here's what else I remember that first summer. I remember, being within 3 or 4 feet of Brees and thinking, my gosh, this guy looks like he's in high school. I mean, and it's just funny how, time has gone by. But that's a great point. I wasn't even interested in the Saints at that time. And then, boom, they become interesting with this prolific offense. Let's hit on that with Bush and Reggie Bush coming into the Saints. What you just described, that's pretty amazing, Jeff, that he led the chant, but eventually Brees would take the torch. Would it be in that year, or would it be like the next year, Jeff? Do you remember?
I'm pretty sure it was the next year. I actually talked to Drew about that when we were doing some interviews for the book project, and he couldn't quite remember, which is rare for him. I mean, he's got a photographic memory. You can ask the guy what the weather was like when they played Wisconsin in his sophomore year at Purdue, and he'll remember it. But he couldn't quite remember when he took it over. He said that it alternated between Joe Horn and Reggie Bush in 2006. So it definitely wasn't during that season. And the other thing I remember, the next year after the Saints had gone to the NFC Championship game in 2006, they opened the season in Indianapolis against Peyton Manning and the Colts for that kickoff game on Thursday night. And in downtown Indianapolis, the NFL had come in to promote the game and had 2 kind of big skyscraper buildings. I mean, they were probably 20 stories each next to each other, and they had superimposed images, one of Peyton Manning's profile and the other one of Reggie Bush. So again, looking back on it, it's crazy. It wouldn't have been Brees and Peyton. Instead, it was Reggie Bush. I mean, that just shows you how big Reggie Bush was back then, and how really kind of unnoticed Drew was early on in his Saints tenure.
We're visiting with Jeff Duncan on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. He's got a new book out, Peyton and Brees, The Men Who Built the Greatest Offense in NFL History. Jeff will join us on Tuesday, May 18th in studio, and then we're going to have a lunch with some Houdat fans, and we're going to have a great time celebrating this book and the fact that Brees was the best player to ever play for the franchise. How many, give or take, how many times and how many hours did you sit down with Drew Brees for this book?
I couldn't add it up, to be honest with you. We had to pick and choose times. He's got such a busy schedule with not only with his varied business interests, but also with his family, very important to him. He talked about that was a major factor in why he retired. He was running out of time in a given week to be able to address the priorities in his life, his family, his faith, his business interests. He was having to get up earlier and earlier during the week to be able to get to the Saints facility to get everything done that he needed to do to prepare for a game. So when your listeners and fans out there get a chance to read this book, if they haven't already, I think that one of the things they'll come away appreciating is just how much investment it takes for someone like Drew Brees to prepare for a game. It's really extraordinary, Bo, how much time they put in just to get a game plan in. It really opened my eyes. I mean, I knew it was a lot of work, but the detail, the attention to detail, hours and hours on just certain plays that they're trying to put in that they might not even call. And so to find time in that preparation, because he spends his off seasons out in California. So I only went out there one time. So really we had to cram it in when he was back in town in New Orleans. And we worked around his schedule. Sometimes it'd be his rehab schedule or his conditioning work. I'd get a call maybe, hey, he's going to be out at the facility this morning. Can you get out here early? And I'd meet him out there. But once you get him, he has this amazing ability to lock in on the task at hand. Whatever he's doing, he's going to be locked in on. And that's something that people told me about, but I experienced it. Like when we were sitting down to do the book, he was into the book. He wasn't going to get distracted, and that's the way he is in life. And I think it's one of the keys to his success.
We're visiting with Jeff Duncan, longtime Saints, Louisiana insider, with NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, now with The Athletic. Just wrote a book, Payton and Brees, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. And Jeff, real quick, tell our listeners where, if someone wants to order the book now, of course, Father's Day is around the corner and so on, but if someone would like to order the book, where's the best place to go?
Well, it depends. I mean, you can go online and certainly get it at Amazon.com or any online outlet. I think the best way to get it would be to go straight to me on my social media platforms, at Twitter, at Jeff Duncan _. There's a Facebook page dedicated to Payton and Brees, the book. And if you order it through those outlets, I can personalize them and sign them to you and get them shipped out right away. That way it's a little more of a personal gift if you're looking for a gift for someone or you want it signed to yourself. We've sold a lot of them. I've had to bring in my sister as my administrative assistant.
Love it.
To handle the orders. It's been really overwhelming, though, but it's been very encouraging.
Man, that's great. Congratulations. Jeff Duncan, Saints insider, on the Modelo guest line, discussing his new book, Payton and Brees, and let me get this right, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. Jeff will join us in studio May 18th, and then we'll have some listeners up here for lunch and maybe some Tito's Vodka Bloody Marys. I want to go back to Brees. You mentioned his ability to lock in on the task at hand. Is he one of the most remarkable people you've been around, considering how he operates?
I think he probably is the most remarkable athlete I've ever covered. Just so impressive in every way. And he's one of these people, Bo, that would be successful in whatever, outlet or whatever avenue he chose in life. If he were a banker, that bank would probably be a Fortune 500 company. If he ran for Senate, he'd win in a landslide. He's just one of those achievatrons, that you beat you at the board game, takes your girlfriend. He's that guy. It's hard to explain, but he's got this disarming personality, and it's true in all the really great ones. I mean, I'm seeing some of these signs in Zion Williamson right now. I'm writing about him for The Athletic next week, and it's not about his on-court basketball talent, which we all know is jaw-dropping. It's about the other stuff. It's the intangibles off the court, the personality, demeanor, comportment. It's extraordinary for Zion Williamson to have it at 20 years old. And I tell him all the time, this is what Drew Brees is like. Drew Brees was 41, and he had this kind of intangible quality. And I think the truly great ones have it. It's more about what goes on off the court than on the field.
What did you feel like? Give me a tidbit or an example of something that Drew wanted to get across to you? It's something that y'all were going through as far as the book, his life, professionally, family-wise? Or is there something that jumps out that he really wanted to convey to you as y'all were going through the book?
Well, I think and it's kind of timely to think about it now with what's happening in Green Bay. The reason none of that ever happened in New Orleans, the reason Drew Brees and Sean Payton endured 15 years together without really any ever flare-ups or any major disagreements or anything of that order was because both had this mutual respect for each other. And Drew Brees, being the product, his grandfather was a very significant influence on his life, was a decorated World War II veteran. And Drew Brees always had a respect for a chain of command and the understanding of a pecking order, a hierarchy, that he was the player, Sean Payton was the coach, Mickey Loomis was the general manager, and he respected that line of command, and he never overstepped it. He certainly respected that the Saints would come to him and communicate with him. But I think that rare ability as an NFL superstar to always know his place and not overstep it, and always communicating, and credit to Sean Payton for always looping him in on everything. Like in 2017, when they almost drafted Patrick Mahomes, Sean Payton had to have the very awkward conversation with Drew Brees, who happened to be in the war room that day. He had to go out in the hallway as the draft was ticking down to their pick and say, look, we might be on the verge of taking Patrick Mahomes with the number 11 pick in the first round. That was a difficult thing to do, but he had to communicate with him. The Packers never did that with Aaron Rodgers when they took Jordan Love, and this has led to the discord and the divide in that organization. So Drew, I think, is a special person in that he never threatened to leave New Orleans despite some contract negotiations that got a little prickly. He never had this Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers beef, and I just think that's pretty remarkable for someone of his stature and standing.
Wow. That's a credit to Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Loomis, the late Mr. Benson, so many people. That's incredible, and you make a great point about what's going on with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers right now. Wow, I did not realize that Sean Payton had to have that conversation with Drew Brees in 2017 around Mahomes, and it was one-on-one. Brees happened to be that's not normal for Brees to be in the war room that day, right, Jeff?
No, he happened to be there because he had gone hunting with two of his old Purdue teammates, and they used the parking lot at the Saints facility as a meeting place. They met there and left from there, and then they came back that day, and it was in the afternoon, and they were having dinner or a bite to eat in the team cafeteria, and Peyton called him. Somehow they communicated, and Peyton said, why don't you stop in here and show your buddies what draft day's like in the war room, wanted to show it off to them. And then they were hanging around, and in the draft, the top 10 just really went strangely, Bo. There were some weird picks. They never dreamed that Marshawn Lattimore and Patrick Mahomes would drop that far, and those were the two top players on the Saints board overall in the whole draft, and they're down around number 10, and all of a sudden the pick before the Saints was the Buffalo Bills, and Sean thought, if they take Marshawn Lattimore here, we are going to have to take Patrick Mahomes because he's our highest-rated player.
Wow.
And Mickey Loomis said, well, you got to go out and talk to Drew about that. And he went out in the hallway and talked to him. And in the time they had returned, Kansas City had traded up with Buffalo and taken Patrick Mahomes.
Unbelievable. Jeff Duncan, his book, Peyton and Brees, The Men Who Built the Greatest Offense in NFL History. Jeff joins us on the Modelo guest line. He'll be live in studio, in the Bank Plus studio, May 18th, and we're looking forward to that. One more here, Jeff, before we let you go on Drew Brees. Did he discuss any kind of chip on his shoulder, being from Texas and not getting recruited by the Longhorns or the Aggies and having to go to kind of an off-the-grid football program in Purdue in the Big Ten coming out of high school?
Very much so, yes. I mean, it definitely bothered him. I mean, he was right there in Austin, and they kept him on the back burner. And Texas A&M, where both of his parents went to school, they kept him on the back burner. He was always kind of the fallback option. So it wasn't like they never talked to him. They just kind of kept him at arm's length and were recruiting higher targets, if you will, higher rated targets. And Drew Brees, if you know anything about him, he's very loyal, and he used that as motivation in his career when he went to Purdue, and was always loyal to Purdue, and because they had been recruiting him all along. And so when Texas A&M came in late to try and offer him, he turned them down. So it wasn't that he didn't have chances, but he very much was overlooked as a recruit, which is amazing when you consider how popular Texas high school football is, and the fact that he was at a powerhouse in Austin, I mean, at the highest level, and I think they lost one game in his entire tenure. So it was not like he wasn't playing in a major market or at a high level. It's pretty remarkable now looking back. But this was one thing I would add real quick. I think Drew Brees changed, part of his legacy, Bo, is going to be that he changed the way people look at quarterbacks, especially NFL executives and all the way down to the college level. You've got guys now like Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, smaller quarterbacks. Back then, it was all about the prototype 6'4" strapping pocket guy. And Drew Brees changed that, and that's going to be part of his legacy.
Oh, man. All right, we'll do this again, well, when you come in studio, but I think I could do like a 10-part series on Payton and Brees and the fascinating relationship. And you've really brought this to our attention, the fact that they were able to operate under that pressure cooker microscope of the NFL for 15 years. And like you said, make it work. And the end didn't fall apart. Like Payton and Brees still have a really good relationship. And I would think Brees and Loomis and so on. And the Saints. I mean, that's pretty awesome because we don't know what direction this whole Rodgers thing is going to go with Green Bay. Jeff, thanks so much. We appreciate your time today and look forward to you coming up to Jackson and hanging out with us a little bit.
Yeah, can't wait, Bo. Really looking forward to it, and look forward to getting up there and having a good time and talking about the book and enjoying the company. I've always enjoyed doing the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a great weekend, man.
You too, Bo.
Jeff Duncan, Payton and Brees is the new book. The men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. And Jeff's going to join us live in the Bank Plus studio on May 18th. And he'll do 3 segments that morning, and then we're going to invite, I guess via the text line, Blake, 20 Saints fans to come up, and you can buy the book and get it signed, and you can either keep it or give it to a client or a friend or your dad or whoever you want to give it to. But some great stories about really how Payton and Brees operate and tick, both together and outside of the building. Who knew? Blake, you don't remember this, but I remember going out to those practices at Milsaps going, I really don't want to do this. And then all of a sudden, boom, the thing takes off, and the Saints are interesting for the first time in my life. And, like, their offense was this well-oiled machine, marching down the field, scoring touchdowns and fun. The Saints were, 3 yards in a cloud of dust boring prior to that. And then, boom, they turn Who Dat Nation upside down. And that place is one of the best game day atmospheres in the NFL. Hey, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by USA Pawn. For all your tools, electronics, and firearms, game systems, TVs, USA Pawn's mega store. I-55 South, McDowell Road. USAPawn.com. USAPawn.com.